Sangaya Namo Guru Embe Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sangaya Namo Guru Embe Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sangaya Gainde Lainje Gye Doy Kaine Tribe Karai Joy Sai Moende Joy Zenje Chenge Mo Chenge Loisan Sedain Jemba Nendre Jesu Gyeltsen Nanje Bende Lame Njembe Nyanaje Dalo Njembe Zanaim Enjoyendo Demba Jeje Enjoy Shoyse Jeje Tian dang zhou wai guyan lai gan bian da. Xia yang bara yi ji yi zi. Lo yi ca yin zha yin ba yin. Tian yin bi nian yin bo. Ri yin do yi zi yin ji yi shu. Nang yi mi yi zi yi bi yi. Ti yin chi ri yi si. Ri yi mi yi ki yin bi. Wo yin bo yi zhang bi ya. Di yi bo yi ma li. Zhou yin zi yi sang wei yin da. Ka yin ji yin ki yin bin. Zhou yi ji yi zhou yin ka yin ba. Lo yi sang yin zha yin bi. Sha yi la yi zi wa yin di. Mi yi zi yi wei yi. Di yin chi ri yi si. Zhi yi mi yi ki yin bi. Wo yin bo yi zhang bi ya. Di yi bo yi ma li. Zhou yin zi yi sang wei yin da. Ka yin ji yin ki yin bi. Zhou yi chi yi zhou yin ka yi ba. Lo yi sang yin zha yin bi. Sha yi la yi si yi wa yin di. Mi yi zi yi wei yi. Ti yin chi ri yi si. Zhi yi mi yi ki yin bin. Wo yin bo yi zhang bi ya. Di yi bo yi ma li. Zhou yin zi yi sang wei yin da. Ka yin ji yin ki yin bi. Zhou yi ji yin zhou yin ka yin ba. Lo yi sang yin zha yin bi. Sha yi la yi si wa yin di. Ba yi di yin za win. Da yi ma yi rin bo yin chi. Da yi gi yi chi wuro. Mi yi di yin shu yi la. Ka yi ti yin chi yin bo. Go yi ni yi chi yi su yin di. Go yi su yin do yi ki. Ngo yin zhu yi zi yin do yi si. Ya yin di yin zan. La yi ma yi rin bo yin chi. Na yin gi yi ji yin kar. Bi yi mi yi di yin shu yin la. Ka yi ji yi chi yin bo. Go yi ni yi chi yi su yin di. Nya yi zhang yi ti yi mo. Ngo yin zhu yi zi yin do yi si. Ba yin di yin za wei. La yi ma yi ri yin bo yin chi. Da yi gi yi nian kar. Bi yi mi yi di yin shu yi la. Ka yi ti yin chi yin bun. Go yi ni chi yi su yin di. Zha yin shu yi nian yin bo. Para yin du di yin para yi shu. Yi ma yi sa yin chi yin. Shi yi ra yi pa ri yi chi. Ma yi ki yi mi yi ka. Na yi ki yi ngo wo yi ni. So yi ra rin. Yi shi yi chi yi wa. Di yi so yi gi wei. Yo yi la yi cha yi ti yi lo yi. Di ya bo de so ha te ya ta ga te ga te ba ra ga te ba ra sam ga te bo de so ha te ya tan la te ga te ba ra ga te ba ra sam ga te bo de so ha Geren ton ta enge joy shewa da men de ne mai gen dan de wa den ba de je pen som so ju da she den ja den den sho sa she be she chun she me to tam re ra lin she nyen de gen ba de Sanje shindo mi de yu wa ye doge nam da shila jimbara e sho ye daim guru re nam mendela ganer ya da ya me Chudan soge chonam jo bardo dane chavsuchi dagi chinchin ge bel sonam ge adola penje sanje do bara sho je chudan soge chonam la jancho bardo dane chavsuchi dagi chinchin ge bel sonam ge adola penje sanje do bara sho Chudan soge chonam la jancho bardo dane chavsuchi Dagi chijre gebe sonam ge dola penche sanje do borai sho.
Simje tamje to the Tozalana Mayanta over Saji Gomor Jini Tabashi. Teach the Tabishi saying about Kulun Chanju, Chumba Sinji said and several shoes.
For the welfare of all the sentient beings, may I able to listen or receive the teachings of the great Lamrim Chenpo. So try to generate the right motivation in order to receive these. So at the beginning, like I would like to read as an oral transmission of this Lamrim Chenpo.
Sadam Bashara Jabarjana Mama Bayudishani, Jomada Ishi, so Jimbo, Honame Bazo Bashara Tabashara Javala, Tadani Beja. Tubazo did the machine, Alajazo, the one again, you don't go job at the water Hindu. Monte Tevala Mekaya, Josangela, Namala, Lava, the Shara Jibetona, Labina. Dere mala be to kirishin sebe hindu yanga la sanga je wale so bade shara je bajin dala de zobara shi ne be je de do ma wani ga lo je shung shi ga pa je to la sam de la pa je to la sam de la ba nya ne ji rimba chung se na la nya je la wa shi nga la nya zo le be rimba no be te da o ge ni nya ne je ni de ba da ni shi je be ta bo ju se she ba yin de chi da o da ji ye wa la me be she ra je ngo la dong shi da ren nya zo le be rimba da san de yong wo shi ne nya zo le be rimba xiong xiao na ye xiong tong jie wa ne wo de dong bong jiu ru xiao zhu shi bo chang kang jia tam ji ji wei qin lu le de na san jiao wo dong chang de le qin lu ri ri na tan ni de de su ben de ba da ma wu ba da da ye ji wei xiao zhu sen wo na ji wei zhe ba ji wei la di xie wo xia wa de de da wo zhu ge xie de yi jia zuo xie bo yin wei wei nya len ji ni dong na na mi wei ba yi de 상자를 파르지 오저보다 그라나 양다보도 배청 주어 양다보로 도바지 자주서만은 까부지 기회 최저보다 까부지 기회 자도시 보시자데 심제담지게 남바 탐지도 부순소배 기회를 보시 바이네 대다대다 그 소노다 이제 소용다 보저 빠지메와 뒤에 되시라는 양다보도 배비 참조다 투보다 세매도 세소 이바 신제 지메바 세와 도와지로 도와지로 뒤중고 등 시르샤비 규제도 뒤시 실레다 코르드에 비베텔데 고부 쪽세 제바세도 모네 제모닝 나라 파지 제바 가서 세바단다 냐바마니 뒤자발로 파라지는 또 통제바 세다데베 동어데 나와라 되셔주 되셔보 모양 더버는데 저보 동어데바니 현모 동어가 나와자와 대당 대라야랑 네네 대당와 템발로바데 도대진 레베지제 지중데 동리 린주당 당니 제로 조런지베니 뭐 통제다 동대예를 되바 인시 소니바 지시를 두시시 예시나 코르기월 제비 시를 두바시 두바니 통마다 되다 되다 가고라 대 사세게 제바 신이 류라빈 신이 류라빈도 그래서 되다 가니 라모도 좋아 토마티 제다 수신 수 제다 저리시 그베 대anya 밤에 쉐쉐베 미시바다 자자 사바다네 돈지에 돈 신제모로 버제디 쇼비 쇼데 쉐쉐바 돈지에 겨워도 버도 저바셰라와 대야랑게 마도나 셰라 조도 셰테샤고 미 차고 셰데라 샤고 셰셰바나 코로롱양 통오티 메도나 셰라 조바셰 셰라데 조바셰 지시라바 쉐장다 동셰지 저고도 셰세네 Drop minina minela give Drobashina Daja, Coloseva de Gava de Kumurana Konoyang. Never see Benanti, Duna, Daja Leben, Bavada, Deva, Yoganya, never Sadu Jojin, Josebanama, Jangamento, Batema, Jiva, Tela, Tontimba, Grivi, Shero. Tempasive, Town, Evans, Josedan, teaching Jesus, Joseba, Diving over Shirshati, so. Sumba Divashi, the Sumba Dushi, do Javala, Shiva, Majiben, sure, never know a shell. I said the Chavabola, Gavashi, Zero, many, the Jewish, the Lobashi, the Totivashi, the Shiva, Tizu, Toji, the Saba, Duvarashi, the Tortimini, but the Mentopara, you but Ruba, Tabunurum Tambo Tongo Nujurubade Tambu Nujurubade Yiva Baba, somebody, Robadi, Shave, number Joe, Sheso. That day, on the kids are shooting the dreamers in the Karsa. Sherapaji, Yawasa, the Yuzatima. But you know, here is that.
So, Geshe has read the oral transmission from the page 223, number E, a summary, till this page 227 until this the ornament of Mahayana Sutra, which is by the fourth day train up to here. Yeah. So last time the teaching was like I think stop until the third. The wisdom knows how to act for the welfare of living beings. The last line of page 22.
Sumba Simjin Simjin did the Chimney to Kanamata, what was Sushi was. That's Sumba Shadachanes, that takers Simjin Nami Toshita, the Simjin Toji has here up there, or tea. Driven to the chairs on the Shira to the Javid said, Tamba Tungden Tang. Tungden show the Chindu the Jawa Shiva day. Rang till the Nini, she shared the Gubani, shared Jibaina. Shinger Shiva Shin was, or did that delicate. Here the in the Tonsh the Carriers and the Kanam of it, and the Meva Dubit and Sushi, because it long to share Tondala in the tissue or is, Simji Tonji Serum. That Dubit is that's our Nishera Javid Senas Tamba Tungdin Sidua, and that big better was more the Tungdin says, your teacher, anything on Chindu than Joa, Shiva test. In the Chitas and the Jibat service, Dubolia, and the Pajin, Yamlin, Chavayo Marawa. That I did Chansu Siba Nyazlan, in the Jinzo Gangal Bay, and Pajin to the Jawashi go race. What is yesterday?
So, it starts from the page 222, the number 3, wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of all living beings. And here it expresses about like in order to practice how to generate wisdom. This one is like without depending, like without any faults. I think we have to practice, whether it is like as there's some kind of precept that is like written for after like Buddha has given a teaching that you cannot do such thing. Some which is naturally you're not allowed to do such things. So these are the things that we had to hold, and then in order to generate, to benefit all the sentient beings is in this life or in the present life, like whatever that's a precept that has to be held naturally, or something that is not allowed to do purposely. So those are the things that we like blamelessly, like we have to, without any mistakes, you have to hold in order to generate wisdom. And then number D, the how to practice. So in this, even though like you have to, these 3 different kind of wisdom has to associate with 6 perfection, but it also has to associate with the 6 supremacies, which is like how to aim towards living beings and how to dedicate and how to practice. So these are the other 6 perfection. So otherwise, like in order to practice, like it's not necessary, it has to be just 6 perfection, but you have to associate with the other 6 supremacies in order to generate the wisdom also.
What that tell you what Pajin to this here, and the Rani big sheriff, any big London sheriff, Nene, she sheriff to go with the sheriff Jimbasi or the sheriff Jimbasi, and the Jimbasi, show you about the musicians, how did you buy that? The Chug Jimacondura, or this in the sheriff Jimbasi is. The Shedat is Pajin Shedat Jiway, Kaje. Because the pay the mother and Yimishia, so pay the Yimishia, what the year good. Pajimar of Jig Tanalia, this year, and the Jimbatang for that, the town Zed Jimbati town. In the Jimbatan Payada, and mother and Yimishia, the sheriff. In the Telia, draw the Karza, Robatelia, Servatirova. Today, I serve to the civilian. In the teledraws, there are any tales on the money by the guy who told he Chevatella in this Jimbet. In telepic, paying the new to some Tagasi, Koju Monju, Jimbatan, money by any big Samotan, Kunju Teatella, any Jimbet some dance or but that is the young here, the sheriff. Sheriff or this year. 데레샤리아 어디가다 제도 희응하기는 써야 되고 데레 간지.
So this how to practice express about like first love in with associated with six supremacies and all the six perfection, even though the generosity of wisdom which is explained before, but it's in roughly it cover up like first of all that you have to know that what are the benefit of doing or engaging the six supremacies and the six perfection, and what are the defaults if you don't associate with these six perfections and six supremacies. What are the default of that? Are so like roughly explaining about this how we involve the six perfection in order to practice with this right wisdom is by knowing clearly about what are the qualities and the default of qualities about practicing with the help of the sixth perfection, and the defaults of not having for generosity, that once you know that if you do generosity, the benefit, and then if you don't do generosity, what are the faults. So knowing that if you do is called the generosity of we call with the generosity of wisdom, establishing in wisdom, and then even the morality also. Once you know about, like, if you hold morality, what are the benefit, what are the fruitions of this holding morality, and if you don't hold the morality, then what are the effect or defaults of not having morality. So these are the morality of wisdom, of establishing other in wisdom. And also, like, so as like in patience also, if you know how to, if by holding properly with patience, and what are the benefits and what are the defects of not holding patience. So once you know, that will be the patience of wisdom. And then so as also the what do you call the concentrations of virtue also. If you don't have any interest in, if you have interest in practicing Dharma, then what are the benefits and fruitions? If you don't practice, if you become lazier, then what are the defects of the faults of not having that enthusiasm in practicing Dharma? So these are the what do you call the enthusiasm of wisdom, and then also together with the concentration. So once you penetrate, when you focus into one meditative stabilizations or concentrations, what are the fruitions and results of practicing, having that concentration? And then if you don't have that, what are the laziness that will mislead to others? So knowing this one is like the concentrations of wisdom, and then so as like knowing clearly about all the other six perfection, that what the benefits and what are the defects of that. When you know clearly, and then when you engage with proper wisdom and understanding, that will be the wisdoms, the proper wisdoms. So how these are the roughly how we practice engaging with the proper wisdom.
다 통도야서 단단 디달이야 먼샤디 셔럽이 퍼지 나고시 다 드드마 셔럽이 퍼지 여와시 셰서 와 디게도 돈다서 디는 쓰고서 동반이 무슨디 제 셔럽 여정 저주 세면은 상승 집어 문제비 수제베된 심지 집에 땅에 서토부 셔럽 게 퍼진 남장 문배유의 신이 근데 용하다 이시기 소 시험부 그거는 건너면 접어시비 탑 싫었음 제비야 제발라 다다는 베이징 제발라 중국의 데려다 건제 동전 다다는 딸이야 돈도 왜 싫어게 싫어가 봐 줘던다 근데 싫어 돈도 왜 싫어 되네 싫어이 퍼진 윙고르 디고 마르스티 근데 돈도 왜 싫어 싫어 퍼진 냠는 좋아라 근데 정주 심지고 그래서 다 건지 되게 다 타기 인사하죠와 그리고 장주스면은 인디 장섬기 비게 셔라지 파지냐는 누구 말이스 때문에다 인디 장주스면 집에 땅네 근데 사통부 셔럽 주스도 사통부 셔럽 남세 사통부에서는 다야 이니 셔즈 파워도 돈이 고소 또 그러 되게 대단한 것은 염슬 내요 말아 제가 뒤에들 야비유도 시에네 엔 다도 소소 비게 돈이 고아지신 이시니 비 장야 도당도 거기 요러 와 제가 되게 소소 단다 비게 로이 비게 제바시니 돈이 비게 제바시야디 셰 인사 터부 돈이 고소도 비 셔럽도 남시 개와 결혼하는 사람이 미유도 시아니 이니 이히 做 그거는 그래서 做 全部 그거나 매번做 시비스 요 이히 做 돼 줘야게 근데 탑 셔럽 좀 제발라스 eno 탑 셔럽 좀 시디 셔럽 좀데 단다 데려와 그래서 이제 심지어도 그 돈dom도 베셔라지 그것도 베셔라지 심지어도 셔럽 좀 요러와 어디입니다 다다는 비에 최배 수거지 시다 다다 간주비게 돈이 하고 말이야 엔다 하고 말해서 누구 샤샤면 시배 값차고 말아 시다 그 가가 로종가 더 많이 신도 로종 시고 그래 뒤서서 시다 뒤에 비에는 엔 다다는 비게 돈이 다지 엔 뒤에 시에는 엔 투순 시에는 가지고 장구래서 그러와 수고래서 출생다 셔럽 일집에 탑시야 되와 티 마신데 가르다 마신다 랍제 주는 예니 예등기 좀 같았어. 이니 슈라드 남지디 야부지메나 이니 슈실로드 비시야시나 이니 벨랑자 도자 야부하 먹어서 이니 예베 동안은 그도 레스페는 디르로 다다다 배 개념 도바 용게 상심집에 동안에 피셔요. 이니 상하 비지 온신 계시다로 봐. 시다 온시베기다 상심 자동차 기다 나 자동차 기다 마시나 이니 베게 가서 나다 이니 리스 꾸지는데 비시기 남지도 가대 세베이나 그 니베는 줘야 뭐도 지리야 쇼양다고 영화요 말이야. 쇼양다고 영화를 시에고로 와. 시에고자 이니 되게 너버섬 탐색이 되게 양서 시고 말아. 디마게자 인티지어로 조든 게드자 조드 데레 랍제 조드 데레 노바성이 랍제 조 샤고로 당가서 셰다쇼 짜가가 접시리고 어쨌든 게네 된 게드가 그래서는 건데한테 게드의 니무모한테 미셰바다 이니 그래 이니 동원주 고성지어로 어디래 미신은 하모건데 동원주야지 이니 니무모에다 사서 신나라 디바로 쇼니시야지 이는 파메 봤어. 그봐. 파메 봤어는 되게 다디 파세 파유세야 돼. 거기 추 거디 좀나 파유세야 되면 추르베요 말아. 그래서 파유세야 돼. 소소심을 딱 봐셔야 돼. 거기 파유세 뭐. 딱 수도 가르쳐야 돼. 애니 개와시 돼. 메가시 돼. 가르쳐 셈디 거디 있나라 비게 애니 니몸에 쇼스 마다 비게 런히 네트버시 파유세야 가서 소소소 상어다니 소소 가르치는 집에 학과 람상 학과니 이 예동선 람사가 그게 가도 간시야 에는 당번의 마중은 그게 당번건 사서시야로 건직한다 이게 가가래 박유세야 두고 걸어 그래서 박유세 취업 자와리 그래서 뭐지서 예동은 좀 봐도 싫어 제가 다들 담들이 예서는 애가 담들가 그러면 저즘다 상하다 다디 domba tamdik de machine sadunu da yeji de machine eni ti shel to yeme hagu marwa setanti zun yeni yedung joba tans enti domba de bege karsa kanji yago suma는 domba 숙성으로 kanji 뿌마다 다 기능을 해서 시작으로 세다 기능에 망도 때와리 민다미 미가베스 아 제가 단다 두제는 셔라기 비기텔 도노 마지제네 두지다 karsa dirjo karsa mondi sojmado jildinde geju machine sewori en mondo mikabe tsara kendele ya tuzmishia de gawo mevse ti yungde tuzmishia gawo mena en mondo jilja yamarwa isheda se na lo menu la tsende isheda jive tap la bina oda tel do washene tsende shera di केवे थाल बेसना इन क्या सीमा थे याग ती सीमा थे याग से 너 콘데 공부도 좋다고 그랬어. 너 디저진세.
So the number E, the summary, which explain about like the about even though one may have like practicing to perceive emptiness or has achieved emptiness through wisdom, but it does not become a bodhisattva deeds. So, which means a bodhisattva, even there's a saying that without practicing the bodhisattvas, even that one may achieve emptiness, that you won't even receive a name called bodhisattvas. That clearly shows that emptiness, realizing emptiness doesn't mean that you become bodhisattva. So that means that in order to become bodhisattva, that you have to generate the mind of enlightenment along with these wisdom realizing emptiness. So that's why only with the help of, so now in order to practice, to achieve along with the wisdom realizing emptiness, that we then that we have to gradually increase practicing into promote practicing into the three different kind of wisdom, because only with the help of this the knowing the three different practicing into three different kind of the wisdom, which is the wisdom that knows the ultimate, wisdom that knows the conventional, and wisdom that knows how to act for the welfare of all living beings. Only with the help of this proper practice, then only then we can be able to know that what are the vows that we have to hold, that the individual the individual layman vow or the half-ordained vow or fully ordained vow or bodhisattva vow, because only by going through that with this proper wisdom, then we will be able to know that how many precepts that we have in each vow. The layman vow is how many precepts we have to hold. If it is an ordained vow, how many precepts we have to hold. If it is a bodhisattva, then how many? And there are like 18 different kind of bodhisattva vows. Or the tantric, how many vows? Like 18 different kind of tantric bodhisattva vows. So these are only with the help of, by learning steadily with these, then one can be able to go through and then achieve the highest form of wisdom. And right now, because if you don't practice properly with the help of these three different kind of wisdom, then eventually that our delusions, our defilement will overpower us, mostly because of not knowing what are the precepts and what are the things that we have to apply and to avoid. And sometimes because of our laziness, sometimes because of maybe procrastination, or because of this mental defilement with these different reasons, that we won't be able to understand fully about how to practice and to apply those vows and precepts. So that's why so the more we try to the more we distance ourselves from achieving or learning and studying about this different kind of wisdoms and different vows and precepts and those things, then eventually that our vow, our practice will reduce slowly. And then the more we we distance ourselves from practicing because of reducing our daily practice, then forget about achieving something in this life, fulfilling the wishes of in this life. Eventually it will also will have more difficult and to have a better human rebirth, a better life to continue our practice. So that's why if we want to promote and learn more deeper and those things, we have to engage through these three different kind of wisdoms, and with the help of wisdom we will understand clearly about what are the things that we can learn and apply into our daily practice. So once we learn into those with three wisdoms and apply, then eventually that this will help us to destroy all the faults that we have, all the negative that we have, and also will make it more easier to learn and like a bodhisattva training, and then also to achieve the proper wisdom, and then achieve the better life in this life or next life.
어데 가데다다 동안이게름 지 흉신 파지 줄라 삼대는 냠len지 렘바 중세는 행할 냠스렘베 렘바 노브나미 제다 게 냠레네 데바 당 예시제베 탑 중세 셰바 인데스 다 데레자다 이런 또 동되어서야 돼 셰라 파지고 동되어 리면도 파지 조가 동되어 데려도 그래서 동안이게 파지 조 동안이게 람 흉신 레스 다 kanchi tina mangdiyo yo marwa. Redi ina tina da samdena tesi nyamlen de tesi duks ta jerimbuji pidu yingirwa. Shechungsi nansi de ta timenro di insare. Pe gom jagur siya tarso shembuji ta yorwa kanchi odi gecha insare ta. Hiengala nyamsi lembe rimba nob nawi ta pachi sheta tsudo ina nyamsi lemba pepe meba su cha cha sigurwa. Sheta ina tida nyamlen ne deba tang 예시제에 탑중시 셰와 인데스다 제르무죠 다디 이니 파진 담보 주간갈 냠슬링 그 탑중시 셰와 이다 셰가 너나에서 팀버다 피제데레 페노타 조디 베게 곰자야들 뭐 이제 베게 데려와다 먼저 베게 렌데르부터 베 조마제샤 에는 베 제일 메시 곰자나 되게 되고 그랬어요 베게 렌델랑도 똑바스가 방자리세요 신이다 되게 용서대 말이 되게 뭐 흉심부잖아 하장성네 흉심부 성로와 셰다 땡이지 고냐 좀 찍체니 근데 예매매매 따와 고냐 좀도 질 에네 지발라서바디 바지 셰다 뜻을 에네 냥네들이 신예민도 셰다 디가다 바지 강가 냥서 말하는 간제상 제토야 말와 셰다 에네 something 바지 지고 두고 바지 강가 냥구랑고 그래서 in ti dondala sirwa nyamle ni de batans nyamle ni de baside de nyamslen gste eni gishi ke beta jun she ba is te gomdan dos leseni eni ti ju she ba is she ba yin de sheta wa de sinye bal mi bes shera yingo hak no sheta nyamso rimbatan sande yingo shini nyamsle rimba shungchewa no shung don jewa no o de to ma joro se jeta 다다 파진시 디게다 롭지시인스 다 시달 럼비베시도장 데로와 에네 다간지 실라인데 실라비베 에네 셰라지 뭐 학동 시대 냠슬레바 림바땅 에네 삼데 당볼 학동도 발라 에네 삼데 파진이 시네 거와 어디니 그런 에네 가사 흉심은 흉아데 어디 실랄 어디 데려와 줘봤지 러지다 파지 타만 싫어라도 사지 혼려로 그래서 파지 타만이 싫어라도 되는 동기 있어 너무 요로사
So here that again that explain about that in this text they not only explain just only about the six perfections, but also it explains about in order to practice the different kind of divisions and of wisdoms and how to apply wisdom is not only applied only to practice the based on six perfection, but it also apply to practice on the tantra. So this is why this is the both for sutra practice, sutrayana practice, and tantra yana practice. So for both paths that one can be able to use this. So and also, and because here in this sixth perfection, the practice in this both sutra and tatrayana practice, because in most of these earlier, before Je Rinpoche, before earlier, that in maybe in Tibet and other part of like even in China, that they are more emphasizing on in order to practice on meditation, on meditative stabilizations, but they don't explain too much on the other five perfections. They don't explain too much details on the other five perfection, maybe because at the time like they feel that important on practicing on generosity and so forth, except like that one has to meditate and then stabilize your mind, and then only they promote those. That's why like Jay is trying to explain in more detail about that one has to not only just the meditative stabilization, but also the sixth perfection, along with even in the tantric practice also, that one can apply this the wisdom. So and like and then together with even to understand knowledge of like is even this is expressed like in the wisdom has to like one has to apply wisdom to understand about that wisdom that knows everything also has to apply, and also together with the wisdom we have to apply achieve that wisdom that knows everything. So because that too has to be achieved along with these. And then also here like the Jay Rinpoche don't want to explain much about this meditative stabilization and penetrative insight, because the subject that we already explained before is going to explain in future in next chapter or next sessions. So but right now is more emphasizing more on these the sutra and tantric practice. But even though this here the even though the wisdom that help and us to lead to achieve the penetrative insight or the the vipassana, but prior to that, of course, we need to have the meditative stabilization or the shamatha to achieve that realization. So that will be explained in the next chapter or coming chapter.
도마 요로지 장주 심바 상강자 탐지 신루된 상자왔다 상자와 상살이 신루레레 딸 년대도 송베스 내가 마음부터 다시 상스지 남지 저바지베 람도 셰바 차와다 데 저가 슈탐지 자즈셴부 인냠베스 냠렌지 네 domla나 인디스 힘다 다다나디 퍼지 두가디나 이 상주시베 냠네 그거 도르세야디 상사 송샤시 세데 상사리 가 퍼지레레 달레 네 네데도 상자디 고 냠르랭고 송샤시 세서 초레와 냠스는 디고 마리스 텔야 데바도 마모바 다스 간지 그게 청예 능기 신실이 노노 상예 산네마다 다다서 예나가 마모 상자원조 가리에는 파진 도버디 냠스 마네나 에네 상자야 에네 비게 타피 요 마리스 세다디 드바지베다 디시바 차와다 세로와 드바지베 람세나 데로와 가제 랑가 데네 뭐 로사메 쇼히는 로사메 ganga bige dongel tigon dogoya dile rebachi we lams rewata dil lam finishina le sidi dinishina le na in rebachi we lams marwa so lamchi mu jime da rebachi pas oti khinu de rebachi we lai ma kheba chawatam chintu karju taji jazo da phaji ro de nyam dan karju che taji jazo che mo yin bi nyane ne dum la ne ba yin de se sheda 가주 대비 자조셔 보스데선다 가지 디나마디베 가주 메르와 세자 퍼지로디 베게 에네 티바셔 보고 냐메기 니 내가 넘접디 오테레스 톡디는 로그레스 거다 시다 레레가 자다 베 심지 동시와 담데 히야 되어라 넘저 쉐즈메 베게 남자 요레데 수디노 미티 토는 로그레스.
So here also explain about the bodhisattva that who or the practitioner who want to achieve bodhisattva or Buddhahood or enlightenment, that means one has to rely on the sixth perfection. Without relying on sixth perfection, there's no way that one can be able to achieve any realization or to follow the path to enlightenment. So that's why the sixth perfection is like a must. That even in each perfection also one has to include or apply the other six perfection in each perfection to engage into path to enlightenment. That's why it says that any the practitioner who has walked through this the path to achieve enlightenment, or practitioner of Bodhisattva or Buddha in this life or future or present on this three time also, they had walked through. We have to also follow the same path to achieve that. So it's like there's no other way to even though there are other minor things that one can apply, but eventually that has to come to this sixth perfection in order to achieve. So that's why it's a even explain it's like the uh, the the oceans of virtue. Like this sixth perfection is like an oceans of virtue in order to help us to lead to the main practice or to achieve that. So that's why it's explained as this is the six perfections are the oceans of all virtues, and also it's one of the it's like one big highway. There's only that highway that we have to ride on to achieve. Without this, we cannot achieve.
어디야? 나 돈다던 로지 장살 때 송야 들이자. 장살 파리신 뭐 주버데 라나마 양도 조비 저지한다 뭐 토버시비 셔지스만 남니. 까부 최기 최체보 등 까부 최기 자자셔보 해야지. 심지 탐지 남바 탐지 푸른조비 유림보치 쳔보이노 대단한 대다고 소놈다 디스워다 건지 선사고디 아니 심지 탐지 게 남바 탐지 푸른조비 친구가 냐네딜 푸른조비 유림보치 림보치 쳔보이노 세다 림보치 세다 시위지 짐벌 지다스나 지딘다 림보치 짐벌이 셰요리 샤오지로와 저기 퍼지데 독디 냐네디 인소자 대다기 소는데 이시 소양다 버는 저거 봐도면 봐. 디인지부시다 라나마 양도 조비 소주도 쳐봤다고 헤매도 스타디 이 친구가 냠슬람니 애네 비게 동중도 버텔 데너지 애네 비게 소주 선지고 고마토야게 애네 디 걸사다 람셴다 숙세와도 요마리스 또 디자르와 그디스와.
So even here, which is in the Bodhisattva level, also express the same thing that repeats again about like the Bodhisattva, who attain unsurpassed. So even this also it again explain about that how important that the six perfections are, and even they are as used as a like example like it's like the according to the Tibetan text, is called the great virtues, the white river, like it's the positive, positive actions like a great river, or it's a positive actions, the white oceans, the positive oceans, the oceans, the great oceans of virtue. So these are explained, and so that. It's like these are like one of the precious jewels. Even though that most of us we apply these precious jewels in a worldly concern, even in our worldly life also, when we have precious jewels, it helps us to fulfill all the needs that we need right now. But the most precious jewel is that who help us to fulfill the ultimate wish of achieving realization. And also with the help of these six perfections, when we apply this, also not only fulfilling our precious jewels, but it also helps us to accumulate the accumulations of merit together with accumulations of wisdom, and that will help us to fulfill the highest realizations or perfect enlightenment.
어디 다 뒤인지 들으셔. in the same game in Java Lobji, tell Java Jello, Pajitama Lobji, Java Jello, tell Ronjimi in Padishava to Lava, the Hinjimi Dua, Dushel Lava Sajora, the Ronjimi Padishava to Labziti in the zone, that the Yiba did, and the Hinjimi Dua Lava said till Leoris.
So till now it's about like practicing and to subdue ourselves and also to apply those the six perfection into in our practice. Now the chapter 15, which is also to helping others. Till now is about subduing our own self, inner self, and then applying the perfection to. Now in the 15th, the chapter 15 express about helping others to mature and to lead to the right path.
No, that Nipa Hinjim do not do she moves it, do it, he knows Changa Hira, what the Tanyama Mall, the Kaikoran Kandirity moves it, here shall be using in Doashima, the dog, some the not in Doasi, what in the hill shall be using shit. In Dushi Shili, that Dushi Yanis said in Simjin, the Kadekade Pengo, the said, Doashi Shili said the one. The court do tell them go was court dubious. So the court dualia in the door move them go to Sura. They go in the Junsi Java Shiva was in the look to the in the Junsi Java Shiva. Such is not here to my way. You what the God.
So now here it's the training in 4 ways to gather disciple that helps others to mature. So in these 4 ways, the first there are 5 parts, and in that what are the 4 ways to gather disciple are. So in this also why there is not 3, why there is not 4, so why it has to be 4 ways to gather disciple. And then the second subject is the reason they are stipulated as 4, and their functions, how it functions in order to practice, and the needs for those who gather following to rely on them, and then it explaining more details about elaborating the explanations of this the how to measure this.
Do I see no Tamboya Coajim says, or tell Jimban Jimban Parjik of the Sheva, the Dallas, Jimmy to tell Coajin. That dictate that some sort of this word. In the Shawjus about the Ronji Bimba said, the Lobs of Shazon Shen and Karsa in the Shendon Jugu or Shendon Juyazilla, in the Shendon Jugduzal Dia, in the Zudu, the Shendosia Karisena, in the Simjit of the Sanji to the Sanji Komagu, say, what the Tambu Tamjat, Simji the Tamjat is here. Said that Sanji Sal Gueva, Chuden Government, the Tegaspi, Karsa Tambaji was at this, and so Goya Marwa. Or Timmy and that thing in Delum, the Julum Karagorsen, Tamutan with the Coajibas. Coajibas and that carry, say, Gono said, Coach, Gono, Conji Paruba, Piggy, they will go over to Kargu and Dick Piggy, Katuya in the Jimbataya de la Coajibas. The Jawataya, the Jawata, Tamu Moshi was there, but the Church in Malani, Tamu Jawati and the Meva, I think, show get sure she was in the Amtus. So that the joy in Atondala in Tambo in the Coaji. The Coaji, that's in the never in the Miss in the Gagarota, as you call Gavacha. In the Gavachas of the Shine, in the Gaja, so the shed in the big Tonto myself. Gave pay the giving him the shed, sure she over. So tell you. Church in the church that did Karsa told the two basses, are they? Nyemba ma, nyemba ma ro, nyemba ma se tiri da, en tiri ya pi keja kare ke ma jabu mi amjo roya pi jabu kan ma do jiri ya pi khodo si ni sikdung so de la de na mi amjo yin ma ro ba, se de nyemba ma se. Si da keja shi ya de la ya. Keja shi de heng se ni mu ke mi jo keja jambu shi go res. O di keja jambu shi go de kare. Keja shi da men da de pi 슈슈도 와지 죽주는 지도 같이 기지 장부 쉬고다 어디 년바 마스 다 년바 마는 가서 그 너한테 차서 년바 마 되네 돈도 투바스도잖아 그 돈이 쉬어서도 뒤에다 얘네 어디 다 쉬어는 거 랑도르 남샤도 쉬고 어려와 다 랑도르 남샤도 멜시에 얘는 소소게 돼 채널로는 쉬되게는 이 밑에를 구워서야 요마로와 셔도 현 가리시에는 셔주 셈시에다 이는 퍼르시바 정식은다 돈이시가 최 가리시에는 현 셰바데 이니디 현게 코나기 사스바 구워라 어텔이야 인디 그도 돈 기죄바서 돈이 죄시 퍼르시 저 연례 죄셔야 되와现在 건조 단다 디스기도 가서老人刚刚要让么的前面的下去了，我这些都，现在是学习个所以呢，看见现在学的，现在可能被操碎呢，有理解不过，但我那现在成人的我兄弟现在些呢，因为所说娘子是大学生呢，因为现在学为呢，因地费用的这个刚刚兄弟学完那些头了哇，我得头认识。
So here, the number one, what are the 4 ways to gather a disciple? The first one is generosity, is as earlier explained in the sections on the perfections. So here, in this, the first one, the how to gather gather a disciple. The first one, like for example, like in order to help others or to gather a disciple, firstly, when you're practicing those bodhisattva, for example, even though they are learning and working hard and practicing daily, but their main intention or motivation is to benefit others, to help others. So, firstly, they've learned themselves as much as highest, as deepest, and then practice themselves. And the whole purpose of practicing themselves is to so that they can be able to lead others, guide others. So that's why, firstly, that they so after learning that, then they start with first with the generosity, as is already explained about generosity. So while doing generosity, they firstly, in order to please and to lead them, they give whatever they need, maybe food or clothes, or they try to help them by giving proper generosity so that they will like it and the disciple will try to follow that. So that's why they try to give some generosity. So this is the first one that explained about giving the generosity. And then second thing, the pleasant speech, which also explain about that in order to teach or help others or speak in order to guide them, that you cannot just speak very roughly or harsh word or slander, but you had to speak softly and also like that soothe them, they like politely or gently, according to the text. Actually, like in order to convince them, in order to soothe them, there are 60 different kind of speeches that they are to use in order to guide them to the right path. So there are 60 different kind of speech. So that way that you're not allowed to speak roughly or harshly, but speaking politely and with to the disciple and to help them, to guide them. And then working, the third one is working at the aims, is setting like teaching properly, like when like by teaching properly. So that's why, like, if you don't know anything, then there's no way you can teach. So that's why you have to learn and understand the properly about what are the things that you have to teach properly or correctly according to the text that is written. So if you teach beyond that, then there's no way you can. So that's why firstly you learn properly, and then you try to teach them in, and then also like lead them properly. And then the fourth one's the consistency of behavior. So this one normally in Lamrim they normally express that without subduing yourself there's no way to subdue others. So that means if you want to help them and lead them into a proper disciple or proper practitioner, then firstly you have to be in that category to help them, to show an example by following into them. If you are teaching the sixth perfection, you follow into that and practice. If you are practicing bodhisattvas like Vajrayana or Mahayana, then you follow according to them, and then you show an example by teaching. Otherwise, you are trying to teach the highest form of teachings, and oneself is not in that stage, and then our own character is opposite to that, then it doesn't lead to the right direction. That's why you are showing them, following yourself into the same path.
我自己，他你把自己多些年轻的，他谁啥开始是呢？考给我了这可是，这些年轻呢，考给我了这有些的，那里的大的啥的，都那些，就多的钱的不是空的，多的钱的，金中的当连续当是大家提不得的。 当你就是就那年把嘛的，对决当同对你的对吧？控制他多我写的控制多的经这些，现在对了他那的一开始同一句话是同的推把写的个，那我就这样的对了他讲这，那修行的可能这些这不是讲头这么多些，可能了的有些同的娘娘个多把着没呢。 이는 가르사 그 편도 심보 용도고 말이지. 어디서 왔다 편은 보여내는 데로 가르사. 최신게 라마텐스야 될 소소도 뇌미시는 줘야지 뭐 이제라. 애들 기도 등주 서로다 드레도는 비게 최 년고야잖아요. 뭐 소소도 zen 줘야죠. 다대 야갈이한 ene desakata ta kawani chire ene be dingzu se en chöshenge de dineya sobatinen pe yime se ya me je deje de jagto ene odo gigenso odo tichu oro oti ba de ene pese chenge de pe ko kia neba do kase yebe ta chado yebe de ta maro ta na yin ta龙巴现在他期间看了被全做皮的动作可以有着，只是刚刚来那边给他，那制作的那边给看啥的，制作那这的说那个就不是考过了，现在这个他多这个说是当下我这么一些的，那个娘们是的，那缺陷的现在也很多你这用过多的，可能年龄都长的些，我这东西是开药嘛吧，查啥了顶上，那边。 lomye pedi ganga de ene tazan dingzu to ko she mo to che de ene loma to de nga ko tewa me pedi thega du me se de nga de do se de ge onjas ka ya mo dingzu se yo ba ta ti shige de da o to se de nga zo so de na tazan gi be kar se dingzu de chi to ni ta do re ko ro za ene yo ne she go ro o de de she da 네 다다 배는 간도 지고 말이 다 쇼도 동자 가시 이제 강가 되다 단다 쇼는 쉐바디 다 가시니 유시카 뭐샤다 칭데 저한테 잡던 엔티드 보시니 라마 강가 된데 해서 비시다 페지 방가요레스.
Yes. So, so in this, it explained in the ornament for the Mahayana Sutras. Generosity is the same as before, teaching the perfections, involving others in taking them up, and involving yourself. You are asserted to be pleasant speech, working at the aims and consistency of behavior respectively. So here actually, um, like in like most of like uh, without any our own practice, without any experience or realization, then sometimes like we try to teach others to guide them, then it doesn't work and doesn't go that far. Like for example, the same situation, the problem happen like in different areas in a different conditions and situation. Like in Tibet, like in order to receive teachings, that uh, that the disciple has to go in search of their master. So they have to, even those time in India also, that the disciple who want to receive teachings and practice, then one has to go in search of that master, and then they follow that way. But now the time has changed totally, almost opposite. Like for example, in India, at least that in India, like in a monastery, those who are based monastery, then even though they are master, that's maybe it's a duty that they have to give a teachings. Maybe they don't have any realization or practicing, but as a regular duty that they have to give a teaching. But there are many master who has really achieved realization and give a teachings. So there but likewise in the foreign countries, like even in the foreign other part of the world, there are many, maybe more than hundreds of centers, Buddhist centers, and which uh, uh, like which I feel that sometimes like maybe teaching give they as a duty, as a rule that they try to give a teaching, like in a monastery also as I said, daily monastic rule, they have to give a teachings. Maybe in even here also, maybe the who receive teachings sometimes like like teacher has to come out and give a teachings. Even teacher also feel like it's like the monastery has a monastery from India or other parts have sent here to give a teaching, like as if we are doing on our duty, not like really giving to teaching. Like I feel like it's just we are giving just as a duty, we're giving teaching, explaining about that, like just like a duty for us to teach. And so and that's why like sometimes I feel like not only me, maybe in other center also maybe feeling the same. Maybe there are some who are sincerely with good practitioner, good realizations, and who really follow the Buddha, the great practitioner, and then the following themselves and teaching the same way. So that's why like, I feel that there are, because of the different time, that like it's hard to see and find the true great master who sincerely giving the right teaching, as they follow themselves and giving a right teaching. Because right now most of us, we feel that we are giving teaching on just because it's our duty and responsibility.
뭐 되게 제가 다다 최인경이나 나베 최인경이 아니 그런 거 야생이 좀지 차긴 상고 거로 제가 다 등산간데 최 챙기셔야 돼 가르쳐는 최디 해봤자 얘네 평용부터 간가 사장 탑도 말았어. 저다 팀비진 평도 그러와. 다 팀비지 베겠다. 내게 장게 가서 랑도를 데데데 내게 자도 데데 평기마도 최디 년이야 귤 신람 주사 시야 말에 가모이는다 시야여와. 근데 신람 주사야 됐다. 간지 시다 주고 세계디 줄라이는 티 상주선께 되요나. 인 상주선 시에나 고스런 주고요. 어디 메나 지나서야도 주가에 피카 버와. 어쨌다 지나 다 가지 그래서 취자는 많이 별로 차지. 가지 랑도 때 시에니야 편도 요도 요러와. 이 취니 해봤자 편도 사상도 용도 말이지.
So even these days, from the listener also, like it's really difficult and rare to find those who come really sincerely devoted and then like you want to receive and apply into our daily practice. So it's very difficult and rare to find those from the listener side also. Even from the teacher's point of view also, like it's really difficult to find that who sincerely practice and then sincerely wishing the disciple or listener that they can give a right introduction or explanation so that they can apply. Because like if from the teacher side, the master side, that if they sincerely practice, if they have the realization, then yes, that whatever the teacher, the master give the teaching, it will really give a direct effect towards disciple or listener, can able to bring some transformations and realization. But even though that in these days we don't have that sincere motivations or intention to receive teachings for that high reason, but yes, there will be a benefit of accumulating a glimpse of the meritorious imprint by receiving the teachings.
어디 다 되는 데래가 그래서 이번 도와시다 근데 뇌고 시세도 시해야 그래서는 뜻이 왔다 코르겨 제시듯이 에네다 차진의 어떻게 고어에서 와서 디발은 토말 근데 디다 가고라스 대여 산진이 제바시니 류를 펜더블 되어서 세대 가고세데 세대 다디로 와서 놀룽주세야 될 메가게 다 페이지 에는 건조 소소지오 심제 요마르바 세대 펜도 코아진도다니 코 가그레스로와 진규를 펜더고 되어서 대다 가니세 다코 이니 셈 테보쇼네 소소리아 이제 그래서 좁은 뒤에도 샤그러와 무엇이면 뒤에 샤인다 대샤는 디토네 이니 콜이야 이니 철 코리아 이게 탑시도 가래가 그 내가 가르도 어디 하고 하시니 이니 냠바모 하시니 이니 케바신 쉬쉬고 그러셔야 되와 어디서 그래 쉬쉬고 미셰바 저 어디 쉬쉬야 되는 그래서는 이니 그 세dom데 시절로 말아봐 진주고 싫어서 어디래다 그래서 누이도 되다 다다 코아지마다 냠바마와도 다 양아도와 다디 쉬쉬는 비게 그저 로도 테즈면이 비게다 예디랑도르기 되게 남지사 하고면 되게 해봐 될다디 오늘 장상시는 다 데려오다 뇌도무시대 되시 돈은 돈시지 말은 주버지 셔로서 어디 돈트벌이야 엔 남지베 소저가 거버는 거 소미지르라 니고마그게 되는 무고시 디제기 게런 조도 이자 은콜 페토던 티시 디다 시에는 돈주비 엔 겨와도벌 조와실라 디다 시에인자 파 현시사게 니 소소 로마스나 tilene ko namji gewati bege semti ke pato ni gewal juba shigres o juga shigres juba shela te rag madona helan jungdo deda shago so shesheva na chorong yang thong de medona hel de dubji la ba ma se shega dire da kunzos bege 소소 돈도 틈바 마시나 가리어서나 엔타디 휴휴이 라마이나 다기제나디 다가스레야스 너도 배 자주서 제 인제제 거고 코로나 배 드레 냠내지야면 두스그와 건중만을 지고도 없을라나 다 코페다가 지야 정말 와라
No.
그때 말다 제가 코로나 딱지시도 잘 에네 세달 시야는 코로나 냠내게는 안 당문에 인사를 코로나가 다가시기도 다디 편도 되는 두스 냠내거라 제다디 돈도 틈바세야 되겠어.
So now the second part, the reason they are stipulated as four, the why is into stipulated into four part. Four is like why the ways of gathering disciple that is set only for just four instead of 3 or 5 is firstly like the generosity, for example, how that it helps by giving the material like generosity, the wealth or those things, by giving them, it really helped them to fulfill any needs of their physical body. So that's why, like, by pleasing them, by like making them comfortable, by giving material thing, so that really helped them to bring some the foundations of good virtue by giving the material giving. So that's how that firstly it helped them to gather them, and uh, then secondly is by uh, giving the pleasant speech, by giving is as we explained that there are different kind of pleasant speech, like 60 different kind, that help them to soothe and then uh, to to like the teachings by giving a right teachings. And eventually when you give the proper teaching with pleasant speech, eventually they will understand about the what are the virtues and non-virtues that is to be applied and to be avoided or discarded, and also that clears away their the misknowing or the ignorance, and then clears away the darkness or doubt. And so once they clears away this doubt, then eventually they will minimize doing negative action like killing or stealing or lying or other negative actions. So once they know more and more, then they will eventually slowly try to follow the path into right path. So that's how that we will gather the disciple by giving the pleasant speech and then right teachings. But on the other hand, like even though we are trying to give right teachings or right guidance or pleasant speech, but we are not totally following into that the way we are speaking or the way are teaching them, then eventually there will be question will be raised that, oh, you yourself is not practicing, how can that it can help us to tame ourselves, because they themselves are not following. So that's how they will question will be raised. So that's why that as you teach properly, if you as you explain properly, you also follow the same pattern, so that you can be able to lead them in a right direction, guide them in properly. So that's why one has to also practice properly.
어디서 셔서 소소데 그게 매대 해봐 나신 그 라젠 따고요. 에닝님 그래서 게 라젠도 때서 닝게 저서 에닝 예바 책된 루레스. 에는 담보데 추를 마주고 저 사디 아 당군이 그런 게 해야 나신 그런 게 라젠 따고도 되고네 저서 펜토야 해서 에닝 걸 효스부터 때문에 줘야다. 마주도 사디 휴야시니 에는 심지 뭐뭐 동시 도래서 따라와 그디 공도 데려도 편바시에 시탑다네 제바시에 조시에 대지 조시에 봐네 뇌뭐 희희샤 해소서 어디 너대긴 인사로 샤 도와시샤데 가르스는 어디 티히 신도시도 오르시 티히 마다는 시도 말시 티히를 하고 말시 어디 통해 봤어요.
So that's why, like by uh, 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 those who like you are teaching them, those who guide them, like only by transforming, by practicing oneself into the way that we teach them, by only by practicing ourselves, then they can listen to you, because you also follow the same path and same practice, and then it will be they will follow and they will listen properly. So after when they listen properly, that means those who are the first one, they are listening first time also, they will like it, and they will try to follow and clear their own doubt and clear the ignorance. And also those who are the old followers been following, also they will also deepen their practice, or they will also they follow more seriously. So that's why, like before guiding them, that one has to follow the path. So that's why even in this the ornaments of for the Mahayana Sutra says, knowing the way to gather disciple to before, a method of giving benefit, involve others in comprehending the teachings, involving in the involving them in engaging and likewise involving oneself. So these. So I'm going to stop here. If you have any question, please. Yes.
There would be a direct effect, if I understood correctly. If a qualified student, there will be a direct effect on a qualified student's mind by a teaching by a qualified teacher. What does that mean, direct effect? It means that they will have a realization without practicing, or immediate, or something? What do you mean?
Geshe dene the nyamlen jehin mi gi nyamlen the gitu yapochila tempochila sunchi nangsulon sunchi the che sheba ina ane di khapti khona phengire ane khapti khona di jura thigire di gare di nyamlen maje sunchi da na da dene lamsang kho nyamlen topoke on gore vex di odi se rechala
ale 파셔 달라서 것도 와지르세
대간사
또 와지르데 라마데 셰네 고줄 셰바나 신기 고줄 야 냠네 깨토레스라로 정가 라마다 신기에다 거니까 상이나
so that is like if it's a perfect teachers and giving teachings to the perfect student, it's like it's not like perfectly realized with the practice, but those who if the disciple is ripened, then whatever the teaching that was taught, accordingly it will help them to realize accordingly if they practice, apply. Like that means that will affect directly and can lead them to realize directly faster. Through practice. Yes.
Thank you. One time there was a student that came here to volunteer for His Holiness's teaching.
Okay.
And she had a question for His Holiness.
Okay.
And from the Manjushri prayer,
okay,
she said, how can I understand the teachings of teaching in 60 ways so I can understand your teaching to His Holiness? And His Holiness said, I don't understand what you mean.
Oh,
and so she quoted this from the Manjushri prayer.
Okay, sisters.
And it says it in 60 ways, teaches in 60 ways, and His Holiness said, it's not teaching in 60 ways. It's 60 ways of speech.
Yes.
So he said like wrathful speech or, or clarifying speech, but it's not teaching. It's more like young.
Oh,
so
I see.
Can you ask Geshe to clarify that a little bit of the 60 ways? It's really young. It's more like speech.
Danda ngama the gitu choresa. Or the gitu ge chamgoromachi sunchi nandinga la duoko yoresa. And the sunchi hagwa chidu ane kasa di kerik dukchu yorola. The dukchu dende jangudu sa ane ngi kande hagu gorese keri dukchu majambardu ane o dende tochi duoko ensarela. And odi the koina the 60 ways of the Kanana di tap dukchu kagachin tap dukchu dochi yore odigi ane sunche dine nango ore nachi goyen sarwa the mora ina danda sunchu the kalawar the chamuro machigi dine dila the kaza seshi di 탑 독주 전에 인주 말에 제 송체 깨릭 독주 가하가 전에 깨 야나 깨년보다 만년바단테 뜻지 여서로 알아 어디 깨릭 가가 전에 ane nangore jine ji juye sarla ane dindigala ni the gengi de keri duju ne deshite se na ro jesa keri duju se ke ma kha mada karina kande ina se
ade ti kiri sena semarda ya ngazo de su Geshe hedang Geshe jigang de da kiri jigang kiri jigang Geshe hedang de pige minnawan ro hia hedang de Geshe hedang ini hedang men ra chu ji si yo res
las
다 디나를 그 민나와 줘야 가면 뭐 야가 선의 태와 뒤에 해고 그래서 그렇다.
nas
어제 야가 해야 다 중지스 줘야다.
nas
먼저 앞에서 파견해야 돼. 뒤에 뒤는 경우가 봐. 지석이서 해야 되는 어디지 야가 해야 중지스 줘야 그래서. 아니 디게리 가가지고 말다. 찍어 보게를 찍어서.
las actually right now about the 60 ways of like speaking it's not different language or different dialogue. It's on one language that you have to speak in a soft way, politely, gently, right in a right way. So that's how that express, not in a different language. So so this is what the Geshe is saying, that it's not a different language. I think that's, I don't know, it's hard to understand for me.
근데 거기 수수받들에 계시는 거기 미선의 간데 태워도 어디 수수 간데 남주 제동 해오로 어디 해동 되네스.
Yeah, there's 60 ways of different, the speech is like depending on the disciple or listener that you trying to be skillful in speaking in a different way to convince them, to guide them. Okay.
Any other questions?
Last week's teaching,
Okay.
where there was a one on page. Let me see what page. 220. 220.
220.
221.
221.
Okay, so the paragraph, the second from the bottom, it says, starting consequently rely upon excellent teachers and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third, listen again and again to instructions, do 4 sessions of meditation, and then sustain the object of meditation in its subjective aspects. I think that Geshe talked about, there was a question about that, and maybe that was the same, but what is the object of meditation in its subjective aspects? What is that?
Subject, okay. The
subjective aspects.
Kasa di sundo ala kasa di shenye tendi gala ane shenye la dene kasa karsumba di yansi nyen korech ane di la da tsutim do dene ina da di nyamlin tsutim da zangma nyamlin je korech ane dene so gi dene kalo kore da tomba zangmo den je ane sunche da lamay karsumba di yansi nye ane nyamlin di nyamachila tun shi do chi nyamlen che korech ene nyamlen che ne ene den ane de kasa de da gomyu yor da pena gomyu di la ta pe tachi do komne ane dene odi da di gomyu da gomba po gi kede insarola odi de gomyu da gomba po sing de kaneda chela sha koresa di
공사 되지고자 yang yi xie wa kong si go ro da de changju sem de jie ge le la wi na in changju sem de jie ta fi de ka de da changju sem jie de ka go se na ya men na ju de men ga de ya men na da ye nyam jie se ni ku sim jie li ya ning jie jie ju yo ro da ma xi de 유르명아 되는지는 심지어도 소소 마시니다 마시베 가딘테 때네 인 심지어들이야 저샤 시고로 또 다시 냠제시는데 디강을 nom비르 거르세나 엔 심지어 비게 거르사 마시시데 저 마시비는 인 소소 주고 비게 런진디도 저샤베이나 인 가두이나 인 비게 거르사 구바 미지에 에디 캐토베 요마르시 다 리코드 때 야야 디가 다데 유리마 두응 그가 두인데 맞아래 디가는 다시 냠지 잡나 슉샤 주고로 어 디데 삼로단다 가르치다 저주세도 많이 타면도 사람이 유대 뭔가선 대시 공 영어도 영어 일을 시야는 공선 대해서 공자스는다 공바스는다 제버시스 지고로
I think here, which is sustain the object of meditation and its subject aspect, is like, for example, when you practice meditation 4 sessions a day or more, like especially like the seven stages of like achieving like realizing bodhisattvas, like the knowing mother and heartwarming love and those things, 7 stages. And then when you apply daily, like after applying daily and together with when you're applying and practicing, like exchanging oneself and others, like when you practice, so eventually, like, because like when we practice only for ourselves, then it doesn't lead anywhere. But when we apply those more deeper and deeper, then that become like a part of character or your daily practice, like mindfulness or daily, like your own character. So that character will be more as like your main focus, like you try to stay and walk on that path. I think this is the subjective part of that object. So because you are trying to become that, you are practicing, you are trying to become that, the true compassion of Buddhi, like Bodhisattva, and then that will be the main subjective part, that you are trying to practice in order for others, then eventually you are trying to become that in order to follow that. I think roughly that what it really means. Kogi de tsodi dire dawala pena pegi gomi di pena haro ju gomba ina karina gomena di da pena di kran da nganso gi de mi gi tso jine gomgo ji dene to chi shek do agina pen haro china den da gomi di haro wala te ha gomgo di kran da soso gi tso ta gomba po na ji chaigi insare tso di insare di pechala ina. So it's like you become, when you practice deity, so that will be your object of meditation, and eventually that become a subject yourself. So that's what, like, you are trying to become that, you're following that, becoming the same that object.
So if I understand correctly, for example, if somebody is meditating on compassion, at first they focus, the object is the suffering of other people.
Yes.
But then when their mind transforms into a mind of compassion, that compassion
that
of their mind becomes the object.
Yes.
That's the subjective.
Yes. Yeah. Then because you are walking on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So, okay, here's a Christmas card from monastery and administration from Gandhi Shartse, and wishing the Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy 2018, and from the education project, and also Happy New Year and Merry Christmas. And then on next coming Sunday is the New Year Eve, so we'll have a short teaching and we'll have a potluck. So everyone is welcome. Potluck will be being potluck here after short teaching.
Bring your favorite food. Do you have tea
Huh?
tomorrow? Tea tomorrow?
Tea? Yeah, there will be meditation. Okay, so. Lama dang gombo jizin jambe yang la cha tsu lo gange lo de nye tende nye da nam da rab se je nye denge je she ze che ni ge do gra le bam kanda ye se be tsen ra ma re men do em do nye ge se
Zhō Zhō Yi Kin La Yen Bu Jie Da Xie Yin La Yen Zhu Jie Yang Dens Zhō Da Yi Chi Zhō Yi Ni Mo Ni Lo Le Ge Cha Zhō Zhi Zi Ma Ri Min Su Dong Ye Ni Go Yi Chi Ni Chi Zi Ri Zhi Nam De Nian Da Chi Sa Chi Da Si Yan De Le Zo Yi Ge Se Ai Du Yi Ko Chu Cha Chu Da Ni Gen Ti Da Le Min Se Chan Be Yang Lao Yi Di Om Mara Bazana Mara Bazana Mara Bazana Mara Bazana Mara Bazana Om Mara Bazana Di 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 Tse Den Ke 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 Rai Ve Se Da Lo Ye Ten Mo Men Ba Ye Rab Se Ka Da Ye Ten Che Shun Lo Ye To Pa Yi Lo De Po Pe Na Wa Ye Tse Do Ye Se Lo De Cha Tso Ni Zhong Pe Krai Ye Sa Yen Bon Ve Jun Do Do Ba Yi Pen Ba Ye Zhen La Ye Wan Do Ye Ke Chu Da Nian Chu Ken Cha Lo Se Wa Yin De Vietnamese? No Vietnamese? Okay. English? Okay. Who is the Lord? From the stupor of our delusions and free us from the iron chain of our karma, who yield the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering, however its spot appears, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You who have been pure from the beginning have completed the stages, achieving highest perfections of the Bodhisattva, whose princely body is adorned with the 112 miles of the Buddha. I bow down to you, Manjushri. Om Arapasana Di. O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence, and so that I may gain insight into Buddhist and text that explain
Nhất tâm kính lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, bậc đại trí ngài đều phục hai chướng ngại, tựa nhật quang lan tỏa khắp mười phương, bậc thực chứng chân nghĩa màu rốt ráo, từ tim ngài Bát Nhã Kinh thủ hộ nhiệm màu, cõi luân hồi chúng sanh thọ nghiệp báo, bị ngăn che bởi phiền não vô minh, sở hữu 60 pháp âm thù thắng, cùng đại bi ngài hóa độ chúng sanh, tựa từ mẫu chăm lo cho quý tử. Tiếng rồng vang ngài thức tỉnh hữu tình, thoát khỏi vòng luân hồi nghiệp báo. Trường tử Như Lai tối thắng toàn giác, ngài an trụ nơi thập địa pháp vân, báu thân ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh, 112 tướng hạo Như Lai, đê đầu đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, cúi xin ngài tận diệt ám chướng vô minh. Om Arapasanadi. Con khẩn cầu dưới gót sen bậc đại trí, bàn pháp lực diệt phiền não vô minh, được trí sáng con thâm nhập nghĩa màu, pháp vi diệu cùng muôn vàn luận giải, như diệu hương ngọt ngào từ sen trắng, đàn xanh nơi trí thù thắng đại dương, hàng thiện căn như ong mật thọ nương, hồng danh ngài khắp mười phương quảng bá, đấng thiện xảo uy dũng bảo tồn pháp bảo vô giá. Nam mô Lốp Giang Tenzin Quang Đắc. Xin cung kính trì niệm.
Ge wa de ye nyoro endo enda Jowa Je Chang Ma Le Yamba De Ye Sa La Ge Janjo Semjo Remboij Mage Panam Kejroij Kewai Nyambai Mebai Gone Gondo Be Warai Shoy Tonye Tawai Remboij Mage Panam Kejroij Kewai Nyamba Mebai Gone Gondo Be Warai Shoy Sai She Ben She Chun She Do Time Re Rai Lin She Nyen De Gen Ba En De Sanje Shin Do Me De Yu Wa Ye Do Ge Nam Da Shin La Cheom Borai Shoy Kan Re Ra Ve Kol Ve Shin Kam De and I and the wa ma le jun wen jere se wa tenzen jazo ye shabe se de bardo denjro e chu ye da em goro re na mendela kaner ya ta ya amen.